Good evening, everybody. Meeting again in the session of Organon philosophy, and we are discussing regarding the Kant's philosophy. We have finished first 12 chapters from Kant's philosophy, and certain concepts which are there in this Kant's philosophy regarding the concept of vital force, the concept of vital role of vital force in the state of health, in the state of disease, as well as cure. That's all we have discussed in length. So up to the aphorism number first from 1 to 20, those were there in those chapters. He starts with this new chapter where he, at start, there are first four aphorisms, that is from aphorism number 21 to 24. He has written in short because those are the related with, only with the Hahnemannian aspect of looking towards the different modes of treatment for treating a patient. And with the help of different experiences and the experiments, Hahnemann came to the conclusion there is only one mode which is curative, and that is homeopathic, and which is based on law of similars. And that's why in this specific chapter, he has highlighted the aphorism number 26. And in short, regarding the first 21 to 25, five aphorisms he has mentioned over there. So we'll start with the chapter number 13, the law of similars. Read the Organon aphorism 21 to 25. So these five aphorisms, you read it from the sixth edition. And what he has mentioned, there are three methods or four methods of treatment with which you can treat the patient. And every method, how it is, whether it is useful, whether it is palliative, whether it is suppressive, whether it is curative, everything what experiment suggests that has been mentioned in those aphorisms. And then he came to the conclusion, and 25, he said that there remains only one system of medicine or one method of treatment which is curative, and that is based upon law of similars. And then he defines the law of similars or nature's law of cure in 26. So, in short, Hahnemann has summarizes this in from aphorism number 21 to 25 over here. In these paragraphs, Hahnemann summarizes the necessary conclusion. In doing so, he proves that only method of applying medicines profitably in diseases is the homeopathic method. We daily see that antipathic and heteropathic methods have no tendency to of permanency in their results. Antipathic, the science which is based upon the law of contraria contraris curantur, that is the antipathic mode of treatment. Heteropathic means allopathic, where there is no specific principle which is present. What he says, there is no permanency in the results. So whether it is antipathic or whether it is allopathic, they are only palliative or suppressive. By this means, there are effected changes in the economy and changes in the symptoms, but no permanent cure. The tendency being simply to establishment of another disease, often worse than the first, and without eradicating the first. So this is what happens generally. The patient starts treatment for one disease, and that remains. Temporarily he feels better, and later on another new disease, internal disease develops, remaining original disease as it is over there. And these are the things which are quite common, which happens to be there. So this he explains over there that either they are palliative or they are only suppressive. The definition of suppression is very important. Definition of suppression is that transformation of the disease from less important organ to more important organ due to the some local treatment, local measures is called as a suppression. And this is the quite common thing which happens to be there with this allopathic mode of treatment or heteropathic mode of treatment. In this, in this connection, we might speak of giving of a morphine and purgatives. In the cancer cases, in last stages, there is only one remedy they used to use, that is the morphine tablets. Temporarily, that palliates. On day one, patient feels too good after taking the first tablet of morphine. Then he asks for the same tablet again and again because that morphine immediately starts producing acute action of benumbing, making a benumb state of mind and body, and that's why patient feels cool because of that. and he gets addicted to the morphine. And this is quite common. In this connection, we might speak of giving morphine and purgative. The friends of the patient plead with you to stop the pain and give something to move the bowel for relief of the patient. You know quite well that the relief from morphine is very transient. But when you are occupying the ground of the principle, there is a strongest reason why a dose of morphine should never be administered. After giving morphine, changes are observed which are really detrimental to the patient. Detrimental म्हणजे हानिकारक. Harmful. Detrimental means harmful, which are detrimental to the patient. The symptoms are changed, and this is always unfortunate. So if you use the morphine, the symptoms changes. The functional symptoms goes into the tissue change. They transforms from the functional to the structural changes. It changes its place from the superficial to the deeper structure. And these are the things which are very detrimental to the patient. The symptoms are changed, and this is always unfortunate. The same objection applies to the giving of chloroform in labor. No woman at present day is well enough to go through the labor without some symptoms calling for a remedy. Hence, if you give chloroform in labor, you put your patient in a state in which she is unable to express the symptoms of her own condition. Chloroform is the remedy called as an anesthetic remedy. Previously, they used to use chloroform for giving general anesthesia. They used to give chloroform, and chloroform, because of chloroform, patient is unaware about what is happening over there. So a lady who is in labor, if you give the chloroform, she is unable to express what she is feeling, what she is having, from what she is suffering. And that is a dangerous thing, because if one cannot express, you cannot understand what she is having the problem. Hence, if you give a chloroform in labor, you put your patient in a state in which she is unable to express the symptoms of her own condition. If at the close of labor, she wants about to give four symptoms that would indicate to the intelligent physician what remedy she needs, perhaps to overcome lifetime of suffering, you would be deprived of knowing what the remedy was by this act of foolishness. So she wants to give you symptoms, but she is unable because she is under the action of chloroform. And those symptoms, which are very useful, very important from your point of view, those symptoms which can guide you to find it out a right remedy, but because of chloroform, you have hidden them. And if such a thing happens, you cannot get really what the patient wants to express. In fact, the data, the signs and symptoms is the most important thing in your case taking, which guides you to the right remedy. But if you hide them with such measures, you cannot treat the patient properly. And that's why giving a morphine, giving a painkillers, giving the chloroform, giving any anesthetic agent generally hides the symptoms. And if symptoms are hidden, then it is quite difficult to find it out the right remedy for the patient. So this is two important thing which he has explained over there. And after explaining this 21 to 25, for example, in the 25, he says there remains only one system of medicine which is useful to cure the patient permanently, and that is homeopathy. And he explained one word. The experience tells us. This is the sentence with which he starts. And what experiments? Experience, he has collected it from different journals. And that's what he has explained. He says that I am not saying what the journal says, what these different articles says, and with the help of that they explain there remains only one system of medicine which has a capacity to cure. And why it cures? Because it is based on nature's law of cure. And what is that nature's law of cure? Then he starts explaining about it. Kent has given maximum importance to this aphorism, and that's why he has, in short, he has explained about 21st to 25, and now he turns toward the 26th. This is called as nature's law of cure. This is also called as therapeutic law of cure. This depends upon on the following homeopathic law of nature, which was sometimes, indeed, vaguely surmised, but not hitherto fully recognized, and to what is due every real cure that has ever taken place. And what is the law? A weaker dynamic affection is permanently extinguished in the living organism by a stronger one, if latter, whilst differing in kind, is very similar to former in its manifestation. If you are able to understand this law, you can explain very easily why homeopathic remedies makes the cure. So you can understand it with everything. Why it is called as nature's law of cure? Wherever the dynamic things are there, this law is applicable. It is not only with diseases. If you take simple example that you have put on light over there and light is going on, and as sun arises, the light of the sun extinguishes the effect of electricity or lights which you have put on, because a weaker dynamic affection, a dynamic affections with manifestation. So manifestation of bulb is light, sun is light, kinds are different, but stronger one removes the weaker one permanently, and this is what happens. So everywhere, if you are, I'm taking the lecture and from the side there is a DJ noise starts. I cannot, whatever I am saying, you will not going to hear or you will not going to listen, because the that noise is more stronger than my a dynamic affection. Noise you cannot see, but kind you can see. One is my throat, larynx, another is that machine. So a stronger always removes the weaker one permanently. Wherever the things are dynamic, whenever the manifestations are there, those, and if they are similar at that time, if the kind is different, the stronger one removes the weaker one permanently. In this paragraph, Hahnemann distinctly declares that the phenomena of cure depend entirely upon fixed law, the law of similars, or the law that governs homeopathy. After Hahnemann had made number of provings, he gathered together from the literature a great number of reported cures for the purpose of observing whether the cures had been made accidentally or from the purpose, and whether they were in accordance with the law of similars or with principle of dissimilar. In every instance, he was able to see that cures had been made in accordance with the law of similars, vice versa, that the drug which cured in each case was capable of producing symptoms similar to those which it cured. This is the true in all planes, under all circumstances, and all other apparent cures are not cures but separation. And here he explains very clearly that this you used to find it out. Hahnemann have Hahnemann not only himself proved all those things and himself told everything. He has collected the cures wherever he got the cure. And every time he was finding it out that what medicine was utilized. And wherever there is a similarity between the patient's symptoms and the remedy symptoms, there he found the cure had happened. But wherever there is a dissimilarity, the cure had not happened, it has produced only the separation over there. And that's why he has explained in one sentence, experience tells us that. This is the sentence which he has used in the organ. And what is that experience? Experience collected from different journals all over the world. He was the voracious leader. And he never said anything by himself only. He has collected that from all different journals and he has given the references at the end in the footnotes. So this is very important and essential point which Hahnemann have put forward. And this happens that whenever you apply this nature's law of cure, the cure is permanent. But whenever you have applied it on the dissimilarity or contrary curature, you will never see a permanent cure. You will only see the palliation. So the importance of nature's law of cure and law of similars comes here. A dynamic disease in the living economy of man is extinguished in a permanent manner by another that is more powerful when the latter, without being the same species, bears a strong resemblance to it in its mode of manifesting itself. This is the explanation of the same law. He explains it in his own words. That sentence seems to be about the best way of expressing the law of Hahnemann's time. The word more powerful and more intense would afford a natural way of expressing it. But when one has lived in homeopathy and has been able to perceive its inner workings, the word powerful expresses a different thought. If we follow along the line of potentization, we lose the idea of power. that is manifesting to an uninitiated mind. We enter the world of thought and therein learn of different kind of power or intensity. When we think naturally of a power or intensity, the mind is at once carried to the idea of intensity, as in electrical problems, in which we increase the intensity by increasing number of batteries. On the other hand, Hahnemann's expression leads to the idea of intensity, having qualities more internal, higher, prior, that is, in the sense of from first to last. The more internal it is, the more intense, the more it approaches the first substance, so that the intensity adds to cause means higher and more internal, higher in the sense of subtleness or fineness. So what he explains over there? He tried to explain exactly the concept. What do you mean by higher? So in the law, what has been written? A weaker dynamic affection is permanently extinguished in the living organism by a stronger one. The word stronger, what exactly it means? It doesn't mean materially stronger. Word is weaker dynamic affection. The word comes dynamic. And where is the dynamic affection? Dynamic affection is invisible. It is in the interior. You cannot see it. You can judge it, but you cannot see it. And you know it only because there are manifestations, without which you cannot understand that person is diseased. So when you give homeopathic remedy to a prover, for example, you also produce a similar type of dynamic affections in that human being, and because of which the patient manifests. And that disease we label by the name of artificial disease produced by the action of dynamic medicine. Here, the question of stronger comes. At that time, it is more penetrating than the natural disease, more internal than the natural disease. It is not in the quantity. It is not like 100 milligram, 100 milligram, 1 gram. It is the question of that never comes. It comes related with the qualities. When you go on increasing the potency, the quality increases. Quantity never. Quantity is already finished when you are above 24x or 12C potency. Avogadro's hypothesis tells us that after 12C or 24x potency, there never remains to be any material substance in that medicine. Whatever remains is only the properties, and those properties you enhance by increasing the energy inside it, and that medicine becomes more and more penetrating once you start increasing the potency over there. So what do you increase? You increase the quality. You don't ever increase any quantity. So it's not the question of stronger in the material form. It is stronger in the dynamical form. Stronger in the action, in the more inner core of the human. So this Kahneman wants to explain over there, and Kent wants to highlight that it is stronger in the sense that it has more penetrating power than the natural disease. So that's why the homeopathic remedy works, because it is always stronger than the original allopathic one, original natural one. And while medicine is stronger than the natural disease, that also he has mentioned in further aphorisms, that medicines are unconditional in action and natural disease is always conditional in action. And that's why medicines are always stronger than the natural disease. The word powerful, then, you will please note, contains an inner thought. That is only way to bring the mind to realize what is meant. Powerful is actually from within, and hence we potentize, go higher and higher, in the order that we may reach intensity. And it is in this sense, that the remedy becomes more powerful by potentization. As a master of fact, when speaking upon the material plane, the remedy grows weaker by potentization because the material is actually reduced. It would seem strange to the materialist, to an to an old school doctor, for instance, who has not thought of anything but giving up a great pills, to say that aconite becomes more powerful by being attenuated. To him, it would just be saying that it becomes more powerful the weaker it becomes. And yet, it is really so. though he cannot see it. And this is very difficult to digest the concept that you reduce the doses and it increases in quality potency. How can it be? Because we learn the mathematics and we learn the material mathematics. Question is always that we learn the material mathematics. We know 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That is what the calculation is in our mind. So we know that 4 is stronger than 1. This is the thought. But when you start reducing the doses and giving it a force or applying it a force for the trituration or for the succussion, and when you start reducing it and potentize it more and more, you liberate the energy. Here it is a science which works. Here it is a science which expresses exactly the internal dynamic energy which is hidden over there. But it is very difficult for the materialist to understand this concept unless they understand the whole thing. If we tell them that we reduce the medicine quantity and its quality increases, they cannot digest. Here you have to explain that when you reduce the quantity, at the same time you are applying the force to liberate the energy. And here there is a nuclear division of the atoms which happens, which liberates the energy. If you talk in modern science base, taking into the help of the modern science, you talk to them that what do you do when you triturate? If you talk to them when you, how do you do when you succus? And when you explain that when you triturate, you are dividing the nucleus of the atom and energy is liberated. That energy which works strongly, that energy which makes it more and more stronger. You have to explain the things in a proper sentences. If you try to put it in a proper manner with a scientific manner, people will understand. If you talk only with few sentences, rather difficult for them to understand. So the question of understanding happens to be there because we never explain the details behind it. And this is what Kent wants to explain, that it is quite difficult for allopaths to digest such a thing. You have to explain the thing in a proper manner. And unless and until you explain them in a proper manner, it is not possible. And then he further goes, a dynamic disease is extinguished by another that is more powerful when the latter is similar to it. So if the dynamic disease is there natural, which is weaker, and if you apply similar type of disease with the help of a medicine which is stronger, then this stronger removes the weaker one permanently. The first proposition is that it must be similar. So first proposition in the law is their manifestation should be same, and then it must be intense enough. The more there is an interior, the more there is to expect in the exterior. So it is with the light of the sun. It is grander than all other lights because there is more in its interior. It is purer, it is more dynamical, and it will turn aside and destroy all other light. Same example which I have already mentioned about the sun, which is having the light as a manifestation, and electric bulb, which is also having the light as a manifestation. But bulb is too weaker than the sun, and that's why the manifestations are same. The weaker one is permanently extinguished by the stronger one. This is so simple, and this is how it happens. So law of similars acts in the similar manner. This law of similars is seen prominently in the natural world. We see it from man to man. It is easily illustrated among the insane. It is the secret of mind cure, and there are many instances of mind cure that are based on the law of similars. One example of this is seen in the young girl who has lost her mother or lover and is ill as a consequence, is depressed with the grief, is constantly sobbing and has become melancholy. She sits in a corner, hears nobody, thinks no one can pity her because no one has had just such grief. Let us apply allopathic treatment to her. Come, there is nothing matter to you. Why don't you brace yourself up? Why don't you try to arouse yourself? But this only throws her into deep state of melancholy. Scolding and harsh treatment do not do no good. but introduce the homeopathic treatment. Employ a nurse if you will, who is good actress and who has gone through a same identical grief, and let her make a big fuss in another corner. Pretty soon, the patient will say, "You seem to have the same grief that I have. Yes, I have lost lover. Well, you can sympathize with me." And the two fall in billowing and whip it out together. There is a bond of sympathy. Sometimes a curable case of insanity can be reached in this way, and thus we have mind cure. Hahnemann made use of this plan in curing the insanity. When a patient would exert her will but is unable on account of physical encumbrances, then homeopathic remedy will restore the order. And very nice example he has explained over there. A lady, a girl who is disappointed in her love, and she was in a depressed state. She is not coming out of that depression. If you try to console, she is getting more into deep grief. So if you try to apply anything antibiotic measure, she will not come out. If you try to give any allopathic means, she will not come it out. But if you want to remove her grief, then if you bring an actress who also shows that she is also going into the same grief and more stronger than that, and many more problems had happened in her life, and then immediately she gets sympathetic. Yes, there is someone who is also having the similar grief. Then she weeps, she expresses, and her whole grief comes out in the weeping, and then she soothes. So this is very typical thing where the principle of law of similar works. But it is not every time possible to bring such a actress over there. So better that all those manifestations which are there in the remedy, which can produce similar manifestations as her state, for example, Ignatia. And if you give Ignatia, which has same capacity to produce similar symptoms, works as a curative agent because it introduces the similar state in her mind, but more stronger than the previous one. And then her original state disappears. Her alter force, which was in this state, becomes free, and the patient becomes free of it, has only artificial disease, and that is under the control of physician, which can be vanished when you stop giving the medicine. At the same time, the vital force fights against it because now it is not no more disease, and it removes that artificial disease. So this is how this nature's law of cure works. So Hahnemann have tried to explain all those things in detail regarding this. So we have finished maximum part of this chapter in today's session. Not tomorrow, on Monday, we'll conclude this chapter, completing this another part, the aphorism 27, the how this law works, all those things which Hahnemann have tried to explain. So that's all for today. If any queries are there, we'll have a chat. Otherwise, we'll conclude. And today, in the evening, we'll meet with arsenic album as a new remedy. Okay. So any question, queries? So we'll conclude and meet at 8:30 with the arsenic album, a very important remedy in practice. In fact, most important remedy in our practice, acute as well as chronic. So thank you being there. Thanks a lot.